Hello everyone. So today we'll start GS Mains Paper 3 July 2017 and this is the first part. Now what are the topics which are there in or what are the subtopics which are there in GS Mains Paper 3? First thing is economy and related issues, right? Second is environment. Third is general science. Fourth is security, which includes both internal as well as external security. So we'll try to cover all these videos and I will try to keep it short, right? I have told you yesterday only, I told you people yesterday only that I will try to keep it like not more than 8 minutes. 8 minutes will be the maximum, right? So let's start. Now the first topic which was in news in July 2017 and it has been continuously in news, right? Not only in July 2017 but from the last 8 years, that is GST, that is Goods and Services Tax, now which is also called Goods and Simple Tax by our Honorable PM. Okay, now what is GST? Now GST has been touted as or touted as game changer and reform of the century. It has been, it's somebody and some people have also called it one of the greatest reform after independence, right? Now, but the thing is, over optimism builds expectation which may be difficult to fulfill. So we should not be over optimistic. There were certain experts which were saying that Canada's whole revenue, whole GDP grew by 27% after they applied GST. So we are thinking that yeah, it will be growing many-fold, right? GDP will be growing many-fold. So such kind of over expectation is not good. Expectation is fine, but over expectation should be avoided. Now what are the issues? There are still some issues which are associated with GST. So what are those issues? Now first issue is petroleum products have been excluded. Now, remember this is about July 2017. Some changes will be there in August 2017 which we will cover. Now according to July 2017 article, some petroleum products have been excluded and cascading on that account will continue. So the earlier issue was there, that cascading on tax was there, tax on tax was there. So since petroleum products are excluded, so that tax on tax will continue regarding those petroleum products. Second issue is with multiple rates, it is not a simple tax and is a sure invitation for lobbying. So we have 0%, 4%, 12%, 18%, 28%. So it is not a single tax. It is actually a multiple rate. And we will talk about it, why it is good and why it is bad. But right now what they are saying is because of these multiple rates, lobbying will start. Whether a particular thing is a biscuit or a toffee or something like that will start, right? So whether it should be put in 0% or 12% or whatever. And the third issue is additional burden on administration and significant disruption in economy in short term, because we have to have some technological changes and administrative changes will take place, which will take some time, right? So a little bit of what you can say, short-term pain. If you want to have long-term gain, you should have certain short-term pain. So some short-term pain will be there. Now, what are the benefits which are associated with GST? Now, the first thing is, it is one nation, one market, one tax. So it is a major tax harmonization exercise and will significantly reduce the transaction cost of doing business in India. The second thing is, it will reduce cascading on account of levies like octroi, purchase tax and central sales tax and make economy more export competitive. If you go to cities like Mumbai, octroi business was a very fulfilling and very fledgling business. And lots of people from Bihar used to go there and they used to say that they are working in octroi. And what was octroi? It was nothing, but it was a means of, what you can say, it was a means of conveying or means of doing tax on tax, or that was the whole thing which was going on there. But now all those things will be removed and cascading effect will be curbed to a certain extent. Third benefit is ceding of PAN and GST registration will make difficult for businessman to evade tax, thereby mopping up revenues for exchequer. So that is the whole thing. So now businessman cannot do all those wrong practices and evade tax. Okay, so this was about GST. Now let's move on to the second topic, that is technology and job creation. And this is a very sensitive topic and very important topic also. We have to understand the correlation between them. Now, nobody seems to be talking about elephant in the room. There's an elephant in the room, which is technology taking away jobs. Believe it or not, technology is indeed taking away jobs. More than H-1B visas, it is automation that threatens to alter the dynamics for all times to come. Remember, this automation, we are talking about H-1B visa, Trump is doing this, Trump is doing that, but you have to be aware of the automation thing also. Automation is also taking away jobs and you have to accept it. Now let's take an example. When Silicon Valley solves the problem of road accidents in US, which is caused by human error by automating driving, so that means they are replacing drivers by automation, by robots or something like that. So in that scenario, 3 million truck drivers will be rendered jobless. So you can imagine the scenario, right? Okay, let's move on to climate change. Again, this is a part of environment portion of GS paper 3. Now see, we have to tackle climate change, right? We have to do all those things which is needed for climate change. But we have to keep one thing in mind, or government machinery has to think or keep one thing in mind. What is that one thing? That projects to help people adapt to climate change should not inadvertently worsen living conditions of poor. It should not lead to like mass displacement of poor or sudden changes in life of poor. It should not be like that. It should happen. Projects should be taken for taking forward for mitigating climate change and all those things, but it should not affect the life of poor drastically. Now there is a consumption expenditure data, and using that consumption expenditure data, erstwhile Planning Commission has estimated that poverty in India was around 22% of the population in 2011-2012. It's an old data, but according to erstwhile Planning Commission, poverty in India is around 22% of the data. And how they have derived that particular figure? From consumption expenditure data. Now, India is taking SDGs quite seriously. What is SDGs? Sustainable Development Goals, right? And Niti Aayog has been coordinating activities relating to their implementation. All is fine. But again, poor people should not be disturbed, or their life should not be changed drastically because of all these projects which have been taken for adapting to, or for changing, or for affecting climate change, right? We have to take into consideration that aspect. Okay, now let's move on to open acreage licensing policy. Now this is a hydrocarbon policy, and this is a very technical aspect, so I will try to simplify this for you people. Okay, let's talk about it. So this is a new hydrocarbon policy which is open acreage license policy, and it makes exploration more attractive for investors. How? We will again discuss about it. Now what was happening in earlier case, like there was the earlier exploration policy was called new exploration licensing policy. At that time government was deciding which particular block hydrocarbon exploration has to be carried out, and they were telling, yeah, these are the blocks and their investors have to carry out the hydrocarbon exploration. But now what is happening in open acreage licensing policy? Here greater discretion has been placed in the hands of explorer and operators. So this licensing policy attempts to address a major drawback in the new exploration licensing policy, which forced energy explorers to bid for blocks which was chosen by government. So government was doing the choosing mechanism in the earlier one, which is not done now. Greater discretion has been placed in the hands of explorer and operators. Now tied to this, again, new open acreage licensing policy is great, but apart from this there is another thing which is called National Data Repository. So tied to this is National Data Repository, which is envisaged as a centralized database of geological and hydrocarbon information that will be available to all. So that would make exploration easier because you have a repository where all kind of informations are assimilated. Okay, but again there is a concern that whether India can attract enough investment to meet government's objective of reducing oil imports by 10% by 2022. Remember this. So we always talk about 100 gigawatt solar energy by 2022. Similarly, remember this data also, that government is planning to reduce oil import by 10% by 2022. Try to write it in answers. It will enhance your answer, right? Okay. So now let's move on to the next topic, which is prison reforms. Now the thing is, prison reforms must be directed at securing the rights of inmates. Now this has become very critical again because of the Sasikala issue and whatever is going on in that particular prison, but we are not talking about that. We'll talk about that in August issue. Right now what is happening, prison reforms must be directed at securing the rights of the inmates. Now right now what is happening is, I'll tell you, as soon as somebody goes inside a prison, his fundamental rights goes for a toss. So this should not happen, right? This is not right at all. Now what are the issues with India's prison? First thing is overcrowding. Second thing is long spells of incarceration faced by indigent inmates too poor to obtain bail. So there are inmates who knows they are not guilty, but they don't have the money to pay bail. So they are there inside. Like they are inside those particular jails. They are getting free food. They are happy. They are happy. Even if they are not happy, they don't have any option at all, right? So is this good? So these are the two issues, right? First is overcrowding. Second is long spells of incarceration faced by indigent inmates too poor to obtain bail. Now there is also a horrific blinding of Bhagalpur's prisoners, right, which happened 3 decades ago. So which also shows stark human rights violation which goes around these Indian prisons. Okay. In last half century, Superior Court has passed a series of orders to reform jails. Now, judiciary's approach has been anchored in belief that fundamental rights do not part company with prisoners at gates. So we have talked about it now, that what is happening when we are going inside prison or anybody is going inside prison, fundamental rights is nullified. People assume that fundamental rights are nullified. They don't have the same fundamental rights which people outside prisons are enjoying. No, that is not true. No, that's what courts are saying, that fundamental rights do not part company with prisoners at gates. Okay. Now, Union Home Minister, he released a model jail manual last year, right? Okay, what should be the conduct and how jail or prison should be conducting themselves, or how prison officials should be conducting themselves. Now, management of prisons must be marked by firm disciplines, but also due regard to human rights of prisoners. Now, prison reform is not only about amenities and conditions, but it is also about addressing prisoners' right to life. Okay. Oh, I have already crossed the limit. It is already 9:55, so I will stop now. The next loan waiver topic we'll cover in the next video. Thank you so much. God bless you people.